The following is an EHC media production.
Well, you've been waiting all year. You've even taken the time every day for the past several weeks to go to the RWT group and listen to the announcements of nominees, and then go to the website to vote for who you think should win. After much anticipation, the wait is finally over. My name is Emir Blackbane Costello, and I'd like to present to you the RWT Awards Show. Our first award tonight is the award for Rookie of the Year. And the nominees are Messina Amosi, Dave Burnham, Moni Lin, Aleki Stewie, Edgar Ventura, James Marsden, Stephen Wilson, and Travis Anderson. And your winner for Rookie of the Year, Miss Moni Lin. Our second award for the night is Best Logo. And the nominees are Max Wrestling Podcast, RWT UK, The Wrestling Nerd Chick Podcast, The Promo Climax, The Future Is Now, War on Raw, The Ruthless Aggression Era Podcast, The Gorilla Position, The Cutting Room, and finally, Smart Mark Radio. And your winner for Best Logo is the Ruthless Aggression Era Podcast logo. Up next, we have the award for Best Podcast Name. And your nominees are War on Raw, The Wrestling Nerd Chick Podcast, RWT UK, The Future Is Now, Max Wrestling Podcast, Smart Mark Radio, The Ruthless Aggression Era Podcast, and finally, The Cutting Room. And your winner for Best Podcast Name goes to Max Wrestling Podcast. Here at the RWT Awards, we'd like to take a moment to give out a special honor to a man who has kept us entertained all year long. With tweets that he sends out, being a complete savage to anybody who gets in his way. For example, when Jason Jordan sent out a tweet saying that he was on the road to recovery and he was feeling very optimistic about getting back to where he belonged. This man replied, "Back to where you belong. NXT will welcome you back." He also tweeted Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon, Paige, Baron Corbin, Stephanie McMahon, and WWE, "How can you be pleased with yourselves from holding the event in Saudi Arabia after what happened to the actual matches? Your Universal Championship is a joke. The World Cup is a bigger joke. Pathetic." His savagery spans across Twitter, and everybody feels his fire. And as a result of that, we would like to give the award of Twitter Fingers to Mr. Tony Kirkendall. The next award being given out tonight at the RWT Awards is the award for Sixth Man of the Year. And your nominees are Ted P. De Niro, Tamiz Styles, Tom Ref Mong, Steven Wilson, Moses Marquez, Patrick Rooney, and Matt Clark. And your winner for Sixth Man of the Year, Mr. Moses Marquez. Coming up next, we have the award for Best New Podcast. And your nominees are The Wrestling Nerd Chick Podcast, hosted by Moni Lynn. RWT UK, hosted by Mike Ibiza. War on Raw, hosted by Emir Blackbane Costello. The Future is Now, hosted by Mike Larkin. And The Gorilla Position, hosted by Moses Marquez and Emir Blackbane Costello. And the award goes to The Wrestling Nerd Chick Podcast, hosted by Moni Lynn. Coming up next is the award for Best Gimmick. Your nominees for the award: Dave Gillum for the gimmick of the Butcher, though he would say it's not a gimmick at all, it's the real him. Eric L. White for the gimmick of the Belt Cod. Robert Davis for the gimmick of the Stat Man. Emir Blackbane Costello for the gimmick of Black Burnham. Dazzy Leah for the gimmick of Mexican Burnham Holmes. And finally, Dave Burnham for the gimmick Dave Burnham. And the award for Best Gimmick goes to the artist formerly known as The Butcher, Dave Gillum. The next honor going out is an award to honor the man who has the most championship reigns in RWT history. He has been a constant contributor from the very beginning. And there hasn't been very many months on the top 10 contributors list where he wasn't the man at the top. And sure, he's lost the title a few times, but he has been crowned RWT champion, a record-setting 4 times in RWT's 2-year history. And for that reason, we honor Mr. Robert Davis. Up next is the award for Best Podcaster. I mean, there's a lot of shows that exist in RWT. Some ran by one person, and some ran by a group of people. This award will tell you who was the individual that was voted the best podcaster out of the whole lot. The nominees are Emir Blackbane Costello, Mike Larkin, Mike Ibiza, Moni Lin, Dazzy Leah, Dave Gillum, Mr. Daniel Crimmins, and finally, Mr. Moses Marquez. And the award for Best Podcaster goes to Dazzy Leah. How about the award for Greatest RWT Champion? Well, we've had quite a battle. It's been going back and forth between these next two nominees. It's been crazy, it's been ferocious. But when each man had their time at the top, they were undoubtedly the face of the RWT group. And you guys voted who was the greatest. The nominees for Greatest RWT Champion: Harold Joseph Hunter III and Mr. Robert Davis. And the award goes to Mr. Robert Davis. Our next award is the award for Best Outside Brand featured on RWT. And your nominees for this award are as follows: Max Wrestling Interactive, Smart Mark Radio, Ruthless Aggression Era Podcast, and the Wrestling Nerd Chick brand. And your winner for Best Outside Brand featured in RWT, the Wrestling Nerd Chick brand, brought to you by Miss Moni Lin. Our next honor that we want to put out is for the podcast that actually turns out to be the highest rated podcast in RWT history. When the first episode of this podcast came out, it got more views than any other podcast in history to date, not just in its debut, but total. Its second episode also crushed the numbers in RWT. And it seems that people really love and enjoy this podcast. So we'd love to acknowledge that accomplishment and give out a special honor to the Wrestling Nerd Chick podcast, hosted by Miss Moni Lin. Our next award is for Best Conversation Starter. And your nominees are Harold Joseph Hunter III, Robert Davis, Dave Burnham, and Dazzy Leah. And the award for Best Conversation Starter goes to Harold Joseph Hunter III. Coming up next, we have the award for Best Promo. The nominees are Robert Davis for the promo that he cut against Mike Larkin, Statman, Emir Blackbane Costello for the promo that he cut against Ted P. De Niro as Black Burnham, Moni Lin for the promo that she cut against Dave Gillum, her first time out when she beat the Butcher, Mike Larkin when he found the anger inside, cutting a promo against Emir Blackbane Costello. And your winner for Best Promo of the Year goes to Robert Davis for becoming the Statman and cutting a promo against Mike Larkin. Up next on the docket, we have the award for top poster. While these individuals didn't post enough to be a conversation starter, per Facebook's badges that they give out, they are consistently in the top 10 list for contributors each month. Your nominees are as follows: Dave Gillum, Mike Ibiza, G.N. Cruz, Tony Kirkendall, Daniel Crimmins, Moni Lin, Eric L. White, Messina Emozi, and Kashawn Perkins. And the winner for top poster in RWT, Miss Moni Lin. The next honor being given out is to the man who is the most knowledgeable person about wrestling on the planet. This man is the knowledge champion over at Max Wrestling Interactive, and he has defended his championship not only on several different Max podcast episodes, but he even had a special championship defense in the RWT group when he was gracious enough to put his title on the line against Moses Marquez. Many people have stepped up, and every one of them has been set down, including myself. RWT would like to honor for being the most knowledgeable, Mr. Mike Larkin. Our next award is the award for Heel of the Year. And let the record show, anybody nominated for Heel of the Year, at least in my book, is 100% a complete asshole. But hey, we still love you. And the assholes, the nominees, are as follows: Mr. G.N. Cruz, Mr. Tony Kirkendall, Dave Gillum, and Dave Burnham. Also, Mr. Ted P. De Niro. And your asshole winner for Heel of the Year, the artist formerly known as the Butcher, Mr. Dave Gillum. No surprise there. Dave Gillum is the biggest asshole there is. Fuck you, Dave Gillum. Our next award is the award for Most Post for the year in RWT. And the nominees are Daniel Crimmins, Mike Ibiza, Robert Davis, Dave Gillum, Harold Joseph Hunter III, Dazzy Leah, and Messina Emozi. And the award for Most Post goes to Mr. Robert Davis with 1,100 posts for the year in RWT. The next award is for Most Comments for the entire year in RWT. And the nominees are as follows: Mr. Daniel Crimmins, Mike Ibiza, Robert Davis, Dave Gillum, Harold Joseph Hunter III, Dazzy Leah, and Messina Emosi. And the award for most comments for the year in RWT goes to Harold Joseph Hunter III with a whopping 2,241 comments for the year. Our final award for the evening, and one I consider to be the most important, which is why I save it for last every year. Podcast of the Year. The winner of this award will be recognized as being voted as having the best show that goes on all year in the RWT group. And the nominees for this most prestigious award are War on Raw, hosted by Emir Blackbane Costello. The Wrestling Nerd Chick Podcast, hosted by Moni Lynn. RWT UK, hosted by Mike Ibiza. The Future is Now, hosted by Mike Larkin. Max Wrestling Podcast, hosted by Dazzy Leah, Dave Gillum, and Mike Larkin. Smart Mark Radio, hosted by Moses Marquez. And finally, the Ruthless Aggression Era Podcast, hosted by Dave Burnham. And your winner for the most prestigious RWT award being given out tonight, Podcast of the Year, goes to Smart Mark Radio, hosted by Mr. Moses Marquez. Thank you so much to all the nominees, to all the award winners, and to every last one of the nearly 4,000 RWT family members in the group. I appreciate all your contributions, all the time you put into the group, the talking, the participating, the sharing of ideas, the debating, the being an asshole, or being the nicest guy around, being the woman who dominates on the page, hell, dominated these awards, whatever role it is that you play. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for coming to RWT every day. Please continue to come back. I hope you enjoyed the second annual RWT Awards. Hats off and congratulations to everybody. Happy New Year, and I look forward to seeing what we can accomplish together in 2019. My name is Emir Blackbane Costello. And for another successful RWT Awards, I am signing off.